So if you know how to develop, right now is the time to be a developer. If you can find an opportunity to develop good pieces of land and the price is right, you'll be a wealthy person.
The new thing is like in this age is you gotta have social media. Your company's gotta have something on Instagram, your something's gotta have Facebook, something on TikTok. If you're otherwise, people are like, you don't exist.
It's kind of like in flipping. You don't want to be the prettiest house on the block.
Yeah.
You want to be the in between. Because I mean, if you competing with big developers, you're gonna get crushed.
So today on the Texas Land Dealer Podcast, we have
Greg Monette.
He's VP of Land Acquisition of Hart Homes. And if you're a landowner, a land flipper, or wholesaler, or want to be involved in land in any way or any of his potential investments, you should probably listen to this guy, especially in the Houston area. So first off, Gregory, how's your day going?
Man, it's good. I'm in Austin for a builders conference. It's with this company called the Builders Daily. They publish national articles for builders, developers, and all that. So got a chance to come out to Austin to come, hang around the big wigs and building and development. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Austin's got conferences and festivals going on 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask. So one of the things I always like to ask my guests is because most people who get into real estate, it's not their first career. They do something else. It's very rare you see someone right out of college be like, I want to do real estate. So I'm always interested in somebody's journey. So I'm curious, how did you get started in your real estate journey, and now you're a VP of a big builder now?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, getting into real estate is kind of tricky, or most people don't know about it. But even to get into the land space, the land development space, it can be a little bit like an adventure to find out about it. But for me, I mean, my journey started back in 2016. I ended up finding a mentor. He asked me to show a property for $200 on Craigslist. I showed it. At the time, I just needed
Craigslist, that's way back. No, it way was, back. Okay.
I just needed an opportunity. And so I showed the house for $200. It was a rent-to-own property. I got the buyer, got him under contract, got him moved in. He's like, hey, you want to learn about real estate? And I did a couple fix and flips here and there, did some land deals here and there. But it wasn't until I found out about the commercial side, or the more production builder side, and land development through a buddy of mine. He went to Texas A&M Master of Land and Property Development program.
Oh, yeah.
He told me about it. And
were you into that program?
Yeah, I'm in it right now. I'm almost finished.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So I found out about that. Believe it or not, it was through an Urban Land Institute. We had a mentorship group, and it was 6 of us, and we had left from a dinner or a happy hour or something as a group, and everybody had left. And then the one guy that told me about it, he's like, "Hey man, my car got towed. Can you pick me up and bring me to the tow shop, tow yard or whatever?" And in that car ride, I talked to him. We talked, just randomly, and I was like, "Hey, so what do you do?" He's like, "Yeah, I do land development." And then that's why I found out about the Master Land and Property Development program.
Okay.
But it was a lot of discovery, trying to figure out about land development, master plan community development. But it was because of that car ride that I found out about it. I had no idea about
it was even a thing.
I didn't even know. Yeah. But I didn't even know it about master plan, subdivision development, infrastructure development, even small townhome developments. I didn't even know that existed. All I knew was being a realtor. Or flipping a house.
Oh, so you have your real estate license?
Yeah, I have. So I've had my real estate license since 2016.
Okay,
but I didn't learn about development until 2021, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were doing it at the beginning just as a realtor. You were just doing it on the side.
Yeah.
Doing it on the side to make a little extra cash.
Yeah. I had a full-time job. I actually out of college, I was gonna get my CPA license. So I worked for an accounting firm. Then I moved over to commercial banking. And there, I did a lot of underwriting for commercial real estate deals.
Okay, and that's what you're seeing, the big boys making real money.
Right, yeah. And that's
making real big money.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, how do I get a piece of that?
Exactly. And when I would see some of these builders, how they set how many accounts they would have, they'd have millions in just cash deposits. And I'm like, man, I want to do this one. And I'm always looking at they bios, their resumes, like, okay, they started doing this and this. And I'm like, man, I know I can do that one day, know? And so it took about 3 or 4 years before I jumped ship from commercial banking to working at Lennar on the land acquisition side. And then fast forward, 2 years later, now I'm working for Hard Homes, and me and my partners got a production home building and development company.
Yeah. And so you do both. You do both, like building houses vertically, and you do the development side as well.
Full service. Yep.
Okay. Nice.
Full service. Yep.
Before I get into more about that, I'm just curious. Like, was there ever is there like a particular moment that made you go from like you were watching all these builders, how they're giving the lending for them, you're watching them make big money, but how did they go from like just watching to like doing? Like, was there like an instance that kind of like changed your perspective, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna take that leap? Because it's a big leap.
So when I did my first project, or when it was the moment that it
clicked that like I need to be doing, like, it's not just like it's one thing. It's one thing to be like watching them, and it's another thing to be like now, like I'm gonna go and do like almost like you're doing a like career change potentially, like, and then just to make the switch to like I'm gonna start making my way to doing this now.
Ooh, I just remembered it. Yeah, I remember it. So when I was in commercial banking, I had a director. Or he was a manager, but we called him a director.
Move this just a little closer to make sure they hear you.
Yeah. He was a director, and he was kind of like a mentor too. I mean, he made decent money, and one day we read this book called Halftime by Bob Buford, and it basically talks about living a life. The first half of your life, you're doing stuff to get success, right?
Yeah.
So in your 20s, your 30s, you're grinding hard, you're trying to make a lot of money, saving up for your family, all this stuff, right? But there comes a point in time that you want to surpass that, and you want to leave a legacy, and you want to lead a life of significance, right?
Yeah.
So we read that book. We actually had a book club about it. And then one day he told us, he was like, man, you have to follow your passion. When you follow your passion, the money will come. I knew deep down in my heart, I always wanted to do real estate some kind of way. Like, always. But I did commercial banking because, the opportunity is there, money was there.
So the path was easy.
Yeah, the path was easy.
You saw the path easily.
Right, but it was just something in my heart was just like, man, this is not for me. This is not what I feel like, I was put on this earth to do. And but just kind of going back, he told me that, and I mean, he had a 15-year run in commercial banking, and then within a couple months, he left the bank, and he went go follow his passion, and now he's making more money than he did at the bank following his passion. And so seeing him do that, I was like, man, you know what? I don't know when my halftime is. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna pass at 40, 30. I need to make a move now. Yeah. And so at that moment, it clicked, and I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do like real estate. So I went back in 2020, partnering with my brother. We found a 5-acre piece of land. We found out a way to buy it with no money down.
No money down.
No money down.
Like, it's hard now.
And it was like right December 2020, like 2 days before Christmas. Okay. It was either 2 days before Christmas or 2 days after Christmas. We signed a contract.
That's funny. That guy probably didn't want to pay taxes.
It's like, but, I mean, I remember because like me and my brother, we'd be on the phone like 2 days before Christmas, a couple days, like, hey man, do you want to do this deal? I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do development. I want to do like acquisitions, land flipping and stuff. And he's like, man, let's just see what happened. And so we wrote the contract, and then we closed on it. Okay. And, we chopped it up into 4 lots, sold it to some buyers and some builders. And that's what started the journey.
Okay, that started the journey.
Yeah, that's what started the journey. I mean, I did some fix and flips here and there, and I flipped little pieces of land. Yeah. But that was the one that put me onto subdividing land. Yeah. And I learned so much from it.
Yeah, that's when you start learning, okay, subdivide land, and then thinking about like utilities and like what does the city cares about. That's probably that's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that project alone, like that was before I got into the master's program for development. That's before I worked at a corporate. That was just purely like part-time trying to figure it out. But I learned You got to make sure you have utilities. You got to make sure it's not in the flood zone. You got to make sure it's not any wetlands on the property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
nothing's going to mess up so that nobody else wants it. You want to make sure everybody wants it.
Right, exactly. And it's like, okay, if it's that cheap, there's probably some issues with it.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Whenever something's super cheap, you're like, what's the catch?
Right. Yep.
What's the catch?
Yep. So, but yeah, man, we did our first deal. And then after that, you know, I learned about the MLPD program. I enrolled in it. And I said, you know, I got 3 kids, you know.
Okay, but you did, because most people who do those programs, they do it like kind of like right after college, but you did it like after. Like,
no, I went through, man, I graduated in 2015 in college. And then I didn't pick up this program until about 4 years later.
Okay.
And I actually, just candidly, I went through 2 MBA programs. I just like, I don't want to do, like, it wasn't like I was failing nothing. Like, I was doing good.
You just didn't feel the value.
I was like, I don't want to do this. But once I got in that MLPD program, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
This is what you've been waiting for.
Right. And to anybody out there too, like, you know, what I would say is, really do a self-assessment and figure out what you want to do with your life. Like, look 20 years, 30 years from now, look and see what is it that you want to do and what kind of impact that you want to leave, and start game planning that now. You know, don't wait, because again, you never know when your halftime is, but just find a way to pursue that passion. And once you find a way to pursue that passion, the money will naturally flow and it'll naturally come. So,
no, I totally relate to that because so I had for me, so I got a degree in electrical and computer engineering. And so I worked for about 5 or 6 years, and then I started doing kind of real estate on the side. I just got my similar to you, I just got my realtor's license, and then I started to learn about land development. And so I got kind of lucky because my mentor was my mom. And so I got kind of lucky because she was a real estate broker, and she got into land development well before me. And then she was kind of my mentor, and there became a point where I was like, I just like doing this a lot better. And I feel like sometimes to find your passion, I used to think that you had to kind of like you had to think your way to finding your passion, but I've learned, or at least for me, I've learned, is that you have to try a bunch of things and see what sticks. Because it's too hard. It's hard to think about what you might like, or you just have to try a bunch of things, and then some of them will stick.
Right.
At least when it comes to finding your passion.
Yeah, that's true for me too. I mean, I started off in accounting, thought I was going to be a CPA, went into commercial banking. Like, that's 3 or 4 go rounds before I found out about development. So that's very true. It's
very rare you find someone that their first thing they try, or that becomes their lifelong passion or goal. I feel like that's why people have 2 or 3 career changes, and they try a bunch of things until something they find it. They get closer and closer each time until they feel like they're there.
Right. Yep.
So that's awesome.
Yep.
So let's talk about. So now you're a big land acquisition guy, and you have your. Are you one of the founders? Or are you just one of the or are you just a VP, or what's your role in the Hart Homes?
Yeah. So I'm the VP of land for Hart Homes. So I handle all the land acquisition, development. So I'm not one of the founders, but I am one of the partners in the company. Okay. So we have 2 different entities. We have Hart Homes, which is the vertical side. I'm a part owner in that side of it. My 2 partners, they started the company back in 2021, and I came on in 2022 and joined them, and we grew it.
Okay, so you're still it's still small right now, but it's growing big time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then the land side, we got Hart Development Partners. That's our land acquisition and development side. So we just from learning how to corporate structure it, they have different entities. Like, they might have a land team, and then they have the vertical team, and it's just for tax purposes. They separate the entities out. Okay, so that's how we have ours set up.
Okay,
so, but
nice.
Yeah,
But let me go over some of technical questions now, because I'm sure that there's people out there that if they want to sell their land to a builder like yourselves, how they go about doing that. And so I guess one of the things I'll ask is, when you're first looking at raw land, what are kind of the factors that make you decide is this land worth buying? I mean, obviously price is one, but what are kind of the other factors?
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm driving around looking at a piece of land, like if I'm looking at this neighborhood and I'm looking for a piece of land near it, I want to see, okay, what other subdivisions are out there?
Okay.
Do they have other builders out there? Do they have production, like large national public builders out there?
Okay.
They have master plan communities. What does the school districts look like? How close is it to a major traffic artery? Like, is it by a highway? And also, is it on the path of growth?
Okay.
Like, because in some cities, like it might be like an hour from town, but it's like, okay, this builder's got 1,000 acres here. This builder's got 100 acres here. It's just like, okay, I'm looking through the planning and zoning meetings and agenda to see, okay, what's the next city up? What's been approved? What's been platted? What's been through City Hall? But I want to find stuff that's on the path of growth. I don't like stuff that's just like in the middle of nowhere and it's not
you don't want to have to be the
know?
one who's got to bring in all the utilities. Or necessarily, it's like it's tough to bring the demand. You'd rather have the demand there, and then you kind of build where the demand is already going.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like in flipping. You don't want to be the prettiest house on the block.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I hear you saying.
Know what I mean? Like you don't want to be the prettiest house on the block. You want to be the in between.
You want to be in between.
Yeah, because I mean, if you competing with big developers, like your master plan community developers and stuff, I mean, they'll crush you if you like try to pay too much for the land or you just try to do a multi-million-dollar subdivision and all the other houses are 300,000. You're going to get crushed.
Yeah.
Like you got to follow the trends and follow the path of growth if you want to be successful. So that's kind of what I look at.
Okay, so from just like a location, so you're talking more from a location perspective. You're thinking about first, okay, where are the highways coming along? Where's the growth coming? Because it reminds me, so I help a lot of people with like operating RV parks and buying and selling RV parks. And so some of the things I think about is like, I'm hoping that the RV park is along a highway. That's probably one of the biggest indicators because if they can't see it, they may not come.
Right.
And then like, is that like along a place is there a lot of traffic going through that area? And then this is a surprising factor I also think is like, where are the HEBs? Where are the Walmarts? Where are the Home Depots? How close are those? So that's some of the things I think about too. So I'm sure there's similarities in that. So
do you typically find areas that have residential subdivisions nearby to find an RV park or establish an RV park next to?
So most of the time, like, since RV parks aren't like, well, it kind of depends, but most RV parks are just like a touch outside the city, so they're not necessarily near a subdivision. Most of the time, like, an RV park is a little bit away from a subdivision. I think that's done intentionally because people may not want, a subdivision doesn't want to be right next to an RV park, unless it's a very classy RV park. There's like different styles. There's like resort style RV parks, and then there's like, that might have tiny homes and like it's fancy, it's got a fancy amenity center and they almost act like their own subdivision. And then there's kind of like more working man RV parks where like people are just like coming in like Tesla workers. They just need a simple place to sleep. They go do their job and then after the job is done, they're gone.
Right.
So it just kind of depends. But I would say most RV parks aren't necessarily near a subdivision, or at least it's not often.
Gotcha. You mentioned the tiny home space since, housing is kind of a little off the record.
It's okay.
Since housing is getting housing affordability is getting a little stretched, are you starting to see more investments towards tiny home communities?
Big time.
Yeah.
I think so this is just my opinion. I think that's going to be a new thing. Like so right now in Texas, there's they call them like, they're not necessarily called tiny homes. They're called like park model RVs. That are like, so that's 399 square feet or less. And so right now there's a community, it's called Firefly Resorts. They have one in Fredericksburg and that one is like doing really well. And so there's only like 2 or 3 communities like it. And I have a feeling over the next 5 or 6 years, there's going to be a lot more of them. And I think just because people like the novelty of a tiny home as well. And also like those type of communities tend to have more, like a community aspect where people like get to know each other a bit more because you're in a smaller space and you want to socialize a bit more because it's not like as self-sufficient as like if you're in a bigger house.
Right.
So I have a feeling, that's just my opinion. I think obviously it won't replace like subdivisions, but I think that's a growing niche.
Yeah. But to that point, you're starting to see a lot of build to rent stuff pop up.
Yeah,
and
that's
build to rent is essentially just like tiny homes. Like,
yeah, it's the same
you might
thing.
have 600, 800, 900, 1,200 square feet houses, 2 bed, 1 bath, 3 bed. And it's the same concept, except they just renting.
Yeah.
So
it's a similar concept. So that is popping up a lot. I've been seeing that a lot. But I think with most tiny home communities, what they're starting to go towards is people are selling them as lots.
Okay.
Yeah, you can condo size it, and then you could sell off each lot.
And then they'll put their own.
And someone will bring their own home. So like the difference is like a developer will come in, and they're just gonna sell the lot. So they're just selling the ground. So they're selling the concrete and having all the utilities and the asphalt and the roads that go with it. And then they'll afterwards like have an HOA. But essentially, people are bringing their own homes.
Gotcha.
Or they're bringing like a very fancy RV.
Gotcha. And then, well, I guess they buy the land, so they don't have to pay a lease like a mobile home. Part.
So they don't. Yeah, there might be an HOA like monthly membership, kind of like just like a subdivision. A lot of subdivisions now they have some type of HOA, so they might have something like that.
Gotcha.
So they're kind of like those tiny home communities are kind of being treated more like essentially like a subdivision. You have these lots, and then afterwards people build whatever they want.
Gotcha.
But instead of having like 2 or 3 builders, everyone just brings their own homes, and they're just tiny homes or RVs.
Do you think we'll start seeing that trend a little bit more, where people instead of a developer will put up some lots, and instead of selling it all to a big builder or a manufactured home community developer, that they'll sell it to like individuals just to give more, like, I guess not freedom, but more opportunity to customize.
It's interesting because I know like the neighborhood that I'm in is like called the Goodnight Ranch, and they have 3 or 4 different builders. And part of the reason why they did that is so that to have kind of variety. But I think there's more of more people are kind of like going towards like those master plan communities and mixed use communities. That's where I think kind of things are, at least in the Austin area. I think there's more mixed use community because people want to have a community where they don't have to like leave to go anywhere, where they have like the dentist office close by and they have like a park close by. They want to have all these like mini cities inside of a city. So like everything is within 5 minutes. And so like I know in the Goodnight Ranch community, like that's what they're planning to build. So they've already built like I think 300 or 400 homes, and then they're building another like 800 homes, and then they're adding like a bunch of offices and a bunch of like small restaurants and small kind of like dentist office, so that like all these little things that you would need, you don't even have to leave more than like you could walk to everything. Mm-hmm. There's also another community kind of like that, the Mueller development, and near where the old airport used to be in Austin. They have a similar type of community like that.
Gotcha. Okay. That's kind of how Houston is too. Mm-hmm. Like they just have master plan communities here and there. Mm-hmm. Side note question: have you seen that new 3D printed community?
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen it?
Where is that?
In Georgetown.
No, I haven't seen that.
In Georgetown, they have a 3D printed community. I think it's about 100 houses. But they 3D print like just the frame, and then they'll install like the roof trusses and everything, and then they'll just finish out the inside.
So when they 3D print it, is it out of plastic or what is it out of?
It's like a concrete mixture. So like the house looks like a Stone Age kind of house. Okay. Like, I mean, it's cool. Yeah. And I think Icon is a 3D print company, and then Lennar is the builder for it. So they finish it out and then they market it as Lennar. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to check this out. You said near Round Rock?
Georgetown.
Sorry, Georgetown. Yeah. Okay, yep. It's kind of all in that area.
I think it's one of the first 3D printed communities in the US. But it's cool. I'm
gonna have to check. That's in my backyard, so I'm gonna have to check that out. I hadn't heard about that. I know that especially with Austin, there's all these kind of like cool communities like that coming around.
Yeah.
So kind of we kind of led into my next question, like especially in the Houston area, because that's predominantly where you do most of your building.
Yep.
And like searching for land. What do you see like kind of like the future trends in like land development in terms of like what products might be built or how land development might be done?
Yeah. So with the kind of lack of affordable housing, I could see development. Well, it just depends on the jurisdiction, but I could see development or housing development having more smaller lot sizes.
That's what I think. Higher density.
Higher density. Like, because for instance, we can, we'll talk about our Dayton West Point community, but we're building 37 houses on 35-foot wide lots.
30-foot wide?
35, yeah, 35.
That's small.
110 foot.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's pretty reasonable.
And I mean, that's in an area kind of like, it's like 45 minutes away from downtown Houston. So it's kind of a rural area, but you've got basically like these little townhome lots. And I mean, but because we're able to scale down and have a smaller lot, width, the utility cost is a lot cheaper, which means the land cost is a lot cheaper. And then we can build a house for...
you can put more units.
Yeah, you can put more units and you can build a house. Like you can build a little bit smaller units, almost like a tiny home, like you said. And I can sell the houses for $190 to $230, which is like unheard of in this market.
Yeah. And
still make a decent margin off of it. But it's because the lot size is a lot smaller. So I really see like 35-foot wide lots, 30-foot wide, 40-foot wide, and maybe some townhome, smaller lot products, that being more of the solution for the affordable housing products.
I think I agree completely, because I think that's one of the big changes. I think Houston has a little less regulation, but I know Austin has probably overregulated, but they recently had like this new ordinance now where like all residential lots essentially have like, they now allow like you could put up to 3 houses on it or 3 units on it
per acre.
No, not. I think it's I forgot the size measurements, but it's like I think it's like 5,700 square feet lot. You can have up to 3 units. I have to, don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. So so in 1 acre you could have a minimum of like 3 lots, and then you can even have more with special regulation. But I think that's one of the things the city is trying to do. Because most of the big communities and developments are all built outside the city limits of Austin. But now the city limits is like, okay, if we want to have growth inside the city, we've got to, especially for homes, we've got to make some adjustments. And so they're trying to increase and have more higher density.
Right.
And so I think that's the big thing. And that's why like tiny homes is becoming more popular. That's why, like you said, all these like townhomes, these duplexes, because they can have a higher density.
Right.
And because homes are so expensive now and land has become so expensive, especially in Texas, because everybody's moving here from like Florida to New York to California, land prices have gone up. So kind of combat, like if you're going to pay a lot for a land, you got to have a good unit count.
Right. Yeah. To your point on that, I actually have a buddy, 3 buddies, Andre Barrard, I'm gonna do a little shout out, Andre Barrard, Nahum, and Garland Harris. They created basically the first townhome courtyard community inside the city of Houston. And so like there's this new ordinance that got passed. It's called a Livable Places Ordinance. I don't know the full details on it because I'm not a lawyer and I didn't do the project. But they basically were able to take, I think, a 9,000 square foot lot, a 10,000 square foot lot. They made a mini courtyard out of it. And then they were able to build, I believe it's either 6 or 9 houses on that one little 10,000 square foot lot.
Oh, wow.
And then it's like each house is 900 square feet.
Okay.
And so the city is now starting to do tiny home type projects like that so that people can afford to live inside the city. But it's relative on the affordable scene, but it's still like...
Yeah, it's more affordable than like... I don't know, because sometimes inside the city, especially inside the loop, it's like $1 million or plus, isn't it?
God. Well, yeah, depending. I think the minimum is 300,000.
Okay.
Minimum 300. Like that could be an older house.
That's an old kind of house.
And like these tiny homes, like 900 square feet I think it'll be about 280.
280?
Yeah. Inside the loop.
Inside the loop.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. But that's a much older home that like you gotta put some work into it.
Yeah, or a tiny or smaller house.
Or a tiny house.
But like if you're doing like the typical 1,500 square feet townhome, brand new townhome, it might be like 300 plus, 325 plus inside the loop. So, but
Cause I've seen some homes that are like close to downtown. I'm like, man, everything is like $1 million plus, but it all depends on like where you're looking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So with you guys, do you mainly is there like a focus in terms of like the home type that you build? Do you have kind of like a persona? Like, is it more for affordable homes, or like what's kind of like the homes you build? Who are they like for?
Everybody.
Okay.
No, so we.
So you'll have millionaires be coming to your homes.
Yeah, no, just
multi-millionaires.
Yeah, so our company is mainly focused on those first time home buyers.
Okay, first time home buyers.
Yeah, so our products typically are below 300,000.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 to not 1,000 square feet all the way up to maybe like 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
But
so for first time home buyers.
First time home buyers, and most of the time, like most of the people that we work with, they're renters, and they either have wanted to be renters for life, or they just they weren't educated on buying a house. So we try to do our best to educate people and say, hey, look, why rent when you can buy?
Exactly. Especially if you're going to be somewhere for a minute.
Yeah,
you might as well. Yeah, then it's a good option.
Right, and it's like if it's just maybe you might need credit counseling. We can help you out with that. We can just guide you most of the time.
Oh, so you guys will help with guiding people in that aspect.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like we're really passionate about trying to get people into houses. So we do credit counseling. We walk you through the process of buying your first house. Again, because most of these people are renters and they've rented for a long time. But the only reason they're renting is because nobody reached out and said, hey, you can buy a house. These are the steps to buy a house. And this is all you have to do. So we try to make sure that we educate people and help all our buyers to, go through that process. Because it can kind of be scary.
No, I believe you. Even like just being a realtor and land developer and the things I've had to learn, a lot of it is not like stuff that you learn at school. Like it's like kind of like the Wild West. You kind of like the way most people learn who get up there is that they have like a mentor, or they have a lot of trial and error. Like those are kind of like the two ways that people like get into real estate at all, because it's just kind of like it's like people talk about it, but like it's like unless you're in it, like you don't really get education on it a lot of the times.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning from the School of Hard Knocks.
The School of Hard Knocks. That's what it is.
The cool thing about real estate too is like, especially in land and development, it's like each project is unique.
Yeah.
You might learn something new on this project that you didn't know on this project, especially with land. It's topography issues. You got different regulations with different counties and cities. I mean, so many different things with land, but it's just a process,
So when you're looking for lands, like what are kind of like the acreage size? What is kind of the land size that you're looking at?
Yeah, so right now we're mainly focused on just buying like finished developed lots.
Okay, so
from third party developers. Okay. But we are working on doing some development projects too. So like.
Okay, so priority number one right now is finished lots.
Yep.
Just taking it because it's simple, because the lot's there. Okay. And then in terms of when you're looking at how much to pay for a lot, what are kind of like the factors that determine like what you'd pay for a lot?
Yeah. So number one thing is I need to know what the house is selling for.
Okay.
What are the new construction houses selling for in the area? And once you figure out, okay, this is what the average sales price is for each home. These are the comps. Then I'll typically back into a land price from there.
Yeah.
So it's like the typical rule of thumb is you don't want to pay more than about 20%.
Yeah, that's the number that I go with typically. 20%. Like it's hard to sell a lot more than 20% of like to build a house.
Right.
Or what to sell like a resale house in that area.
Right. And you can, when you buying finished lots and like development costs have went up a lot. So sometimes you might have to stretch it to 22%, 25%. But typically, like the way I do it is like I don't just use that 20% as like the benchmark. That's just kind of like the back of the napkin.
Just a quick to look to see first if it's even worth talking about.
Right, and then it's like, okay, it hit the 20%. It might be close. All right, cool. Let me take the next step. The next step is, let me just run like a scenario, 1,500 square foot property, right? What would that sell for? How much would it cost me to build? Does that back down to a 20% margin or more? Then I'm good. So like, if anybody out there is trying to run numbers and trying to figure it out, the typical the typical construction cost that I go with is usually about $100 a square foot. Okay, now some builders it might fluctuate.
That's your construction cost.
Yeah, so like just back of the napkin, just whatever. I'll just take a 1,500 square foot house, $100 a foot, $150,000. Add my land costs. And that should give me a 20% margin once you net out the sales price.
Yes. You know? I learned that most builders want somewhere between like a 15 to 25 is kind of like their margin, like their cut.
Yeah.
When they do it. Because when I look at entitled land or if raw land is worth going through the steps of entitlement, kind of the things I think about was like, what do you call it? Other than like how many units can I get on it? And then, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but when I look at land, like I look at like topography, I look at utilities. I also look at like when I look at topography, from my understanding, like you would prefer like you want a topography where like I think because the street level is typically where the utilities are, right? Mm-hmm. And so you prefer a downward facing lot versus like an upwards facing because that way at least gravity helps you in your favor for like sewer connection and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
or is that not really a factor at all?
You know, like y'all have a lot of topography over here. Houston is like flat.
It's flat. Oh, I forget that you guys don't even think about that because you guys are pretty much flat.
Yeah, I mean, but there's some parts of Houston, like Conroe, north side of Houston, where there's a lot more topography. So you have your retaining walls. You have to bring in a lot of dirt. So to your point, you do have to look at that. And so they call it sheet flow because you want to make. The number one thing you got to look for when you look at a property is where's the water going?
Yeah.
You know, is it going to a creek? Is it going to the front? You know, that also with that topography, like you said, it helps to drain gravity flow, the utilities, the sewer, water naturally without bringing a lot of dirt. So topography, you know, where's the outfall, all of that too. So
one thing, the reason why I asked that is, so a lot of like my listeners, they look at not only is like buying and selling lots, but they also look at like large acreages and how do we turn that into community.
Right.
And I'm curious because you mentioned not only are you looking at lots, but you're also like looking at like getting raw land, like a big piece of raw land, like, I don't know, like 20 to 50 acres and maybe build a community out of it.
Right. For us, like we're trying to take baby steps. So like the smallest lot that I'm looking at developing is like 10,000 square feet. And that's enough to do 6 townhomes. That's actually one of our first projects we're working on.
Okay.
But my goal is to eventually get us, we do these small 10,000 square foot property that's entitled. We develop it. And then eventually we can move up to 20 acres. Then we do 50 acres. And then we'll do 100.
So I'll take one step back. So just can you help my listeners know like what it means to be entitled?
Yes. All right.
Or entitled lot, I think.
Sure. Right. So there's different phases for land, or different ways that you can take it through the process. Number one is raw land. It's just sitting out there. It's no utility. Like, it might have utilities, it might not, but you've done no work to it.
Yeah, no work.
Right. Next phase is getting it entitled, which is basically you go to the city, you say, this is what my plan is. You mark it up, get a preliminary plat, get a preliminary idea, and then once you get it approved, you get civil engineering plans. Like you get an engineer to draw it up. Once it's drawn up and the city approves it again, you get basically permits to build. And so that's essentially entitled lot. Like it's basically build ready. Like if I'm buying it, the day I buy it, I should be able to start construction, my infrastructure.
Shovel ready.
Right, shovel ready, yeah. And it's too, like, I've heard some people say entitled lots or paper lots before. It's two different versions of paper lots. You can get it approved initially without any engineering, construction plans.
So this is like a site map or like a site plan.
Yeah, like you get it approved.
It's not approved yet. Okay, yeah.
It's approved, but it's only the concept is just approved.
Yeah,
you haven't spent the $50 to $100 or $500,000 in engineering fees to get it like shovel ready.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So when it's entitled, though, you haven't necessarily added the the underground infrastructure necessarily.
Yeah, yeah. So that's everything before the infrastructure is already put in.
Okay.
So, but me personally, and any other developer out there. The closer that you can get to breaking ground, the more valuable the land is.
Yeah.
Because
it's just ready to go.
Right.
Because builders just want to build.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know how it is in the city of Austin, like with y'all's permitting process, but I know the city of Houston, it might take 18 months to 2 years, just to get stuff entitled before you can break ground. So if I can shave off that 2 years and buy it from you and start in 2 weeks, then I would pay a little bit more of a premium. Now, don't tax me. Because I've seen a lot, like especially during this time where the market's slowing down a little bit. I'm starting to see a lot of developed lots that are sitting there, or some entitled lots that are sitting there because either you paid too much for the land and you can't, sell it to developers. So don't overcharge your buyers and try to make a huge fee off it because from looking at the home building and development side. The home building side, especially on the production side, is very marginal unless you're doing custom builds where the profits are a little bit more lucrative. But when you're doing affordable production spec housing, the profits aren't crazy. So keep that in mind when you're trying to sell some entitled lots.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to do is you have to make it a win-win in a certain perspective. And so what I mean by that is if you're going to, you kind of have to pull out a calculator. Or pull out your Excel sheet. It's just like, okay, I know the builder can build this. So like they'll say say if we had to make the math, we'll say we have 100 acres. And say out of 100 acres, you're going to lose 30% or so to utilities and roads and development. So of that 100 acres, 70 is potentially available for, I'm just doing napkin math.
Right.
So 70 acres is available.
Right.
And then from that, you could look up the zoning, and based off that, you can know there's like a unit count you could get from that. And then from that unit count, you'll be like, okay, a paper lot, or no, like a lot in this area, you could figure it out maybe like what it's worth. And so then from there you can be, okay, entitled lots could be worth this to a builder. And then you could say the way you do it, or at least the way I would do it is like have half the percentage would go to like the person selling it, and the other development half would maybe go to the builder. And so that way the builder is they're going to make their 15 to 25% on actually like selling or doing the build, but they'll make some money on the development side.
Right.
Because typically, so when I help people, I've started before development is or entitlement is finished, I've started to talk to people who are interested in like buying it. So that they have almost a hand in the development.
Right.
Because the reason why that's important is you don't want to wait till the end to get it, because one, you want to make something that somebody wants.
That's a great point.
So you have to make something that and then so you have to involve them like during the entitlement process. And then two, entitlement doesn't last forever. There's like there's a limit of time that like that permit will expire. And so that's why I've learned that you have to start including builders when you're going through the entitlement process. Say, hey, I have this land that I'm doing entitlement for. And then start reaching out to people.
Right.
And so and then working with builders a lot of times, if you pull out an Excel sheet, you can see how like, if you want to sell it the most, you got to work with a builder. And so you have to be or it's good to be transparent.
Yeah, you have to be.
Because I think with selling land in particular, it's a lot different in my opinion, than selling houses, because a lot of the value of land is very hidden. It's not something you can just look at. So like when you go look at a mansion, like it speaks for itself. There's not, you're just looking at it and then do you like it or do you not? You can have a tour of it and you'll have a good sense of like if it's good. But land is like completely different because there's like a hidden story behind each land. Like, does it have utilities? What's the topography like? What will the city allow in that area? How many lots could I build in this area? Then will people come to this area? And so I feel like, so the reason why I like land a lot is there's like a hidden story that you have to, as whoever's selling it or developing it, that has to share. And you have to, that's the reason why like land is sometimes hard to sell, because like even the next door lot could be completely different for some reason, whether it's a whole big ranch or a lot which could substantially increase or decrease the value.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the thing I like about land and lot, and why I'm interested is because there's like this hidden story of what Eastland can be. And so I have to, like, when I market a property, I put a lot of effort into like the marketing package behind it, because you have to kind of showcase, because like if you look at a land, you have to put a lot of investment just to decide if you want it or not want it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
There's a lot of due diligence just to decide if you even want it under contract.
Right, yeah. And then once you get under contract, you might find other stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like, like you might test the soils and do a phase 1, and then you find out they might have, underground storage tanks or some, oil leaked in the soils, or the soils are contaminated, or you find out they have wetlands on the property or endangered species, or like it's so much stuff. And then you get the city involved too, and you do a traffic impact analysis. They want you to do that. You might have to do a turn lane. That's
if you do textile, So there's all these little things that kind of add up on cost.
Yeah.
And so when I help people with like getting entitlements, that's one of the things. It's not, you have to be transparent.
Yeah.
On like what are all the things? What are all these things? What are maybe any like holding things that like you have to point out negatives potentially.
Yeah, you do. And this is the thing too.
Cause you don't want a builder to spend all this time and then to waste your time if they get something under contract too. Because there's value in like if you have it under contract, you can't sell it to anybody else.
Yeah, and then if you dealing with 100 acres or more, you mostly dealing with most of the public builders.
Yeah,
either the public builders or the regionals. You're not dealing with smaller mom and pops. So you have to be transparent. And the numbers have to make sense too, because they're looking at a lot of deals all the time.
Yeah.
And so the second that they like, oh, this dude, he might be a shady developer because he hiding this and that.
Yeah.
It's like when you're doing a big development project like that, you're essentially a partner with the builder. So you have to get them involved. You have to know, to your point, like, what is their product mix?
Exactly.
I'm not just going to throw 100, 200 lots, that's some weird lot sizes without consulting my builders, because guess what? You do 200 something lots that's 20 by 50, nobody buying it. But if you get lots that are standard for all builders and you're talking to your builders through the process, you can design a good community that they'll pay a decent price for.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important to have them involved, because once I finish entitlement, I want to have somebody that I've already decided they're buying it.
Yep.
Because you want to make something that somebody wants you to build it, and or you have to make a build that like many people would want.
Right. Yeah.
And so it just depends. So that's what I've learned is that like I essentially have like an Excel sheet that breaks down. Okay, based off this, we can have this many units. Based off this, with the condition of like this lot size, and then these are the type of builders that would be interested in that kind of product, and then you have to kind of make it worth their while, because they got to make sure they get their cut. That's why, because people think that like you can just sell land for millions, but you kind of have to think about it from the builder's perspective. How are they making money? Somebody doesn't mind you making millions if they are making like multi-millions.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to make it a win-win.
Right. Everybody have to eat.
Yeah, everybody's got to eat.
Like, I mean, and I'll tell y'all this, like, since most of the listeners are land buyers or brokers or developers, look, there's a shortage of finished lots. Yeah. And if you can price it right, you will have a ton of LOIs and a ton of builders like knocking at your door like, hey, I need finished lots. Because every builder that I've talked to in the city of Houston, all the big guys, the regional guys, they looking to double in size, but they don't want to develop their own stuff.
Yeah.
They need developed lots. So there's a shortage of developed lots, but you got to price them right.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's kind of the new gold rush right now is getting developed finished lots. So if you know how to develop, right now is the time to be a developer, because it's not many developers out there, but if you can find an opportunity to develop good pieces of land, and the price is right, you be a wealthy person.
Yeah. I wanted there's a lot of it. One of the things before I get to that, but one of the things that you said that was really interesting was that it's like a partnership. And I think that's true with like any land deal, is that it's a lot different from a house because it's a little bit more like cut and dry. When you sell a house, it's like it's under contract. You probably won't communicate with them much unless there's a problem. But with any type of commercial deals or land deals, there's a lot more back and forth, and there's more talking in between and more exchanging information, I think, in general.
That's true.
There's more knobs and like negotiating, and there's a lot more terms. It's not just about the price.
No.
There's all these terms that are like from like due diligence to like what kind of things are going to be, who's going to pay for what for different things. And so that's the one thing I like about land. There's more things to negotiate, and it's more complex, which I like because that means less people are because anyone can be a realtor, but like, because it doesn't take much to get a license. But to do any type of land development, even just to sell land, it requires a different level of complexity. So because of that, because it's hard, there's less people who do it.
Yep.
And so it gives you a strategic advantage if you were willing to put in that work.
Yep, that's so true. Because I mean, I see people all the time. You know, some of them might be residential realtors, and it's like they bring a piece of land and like, oh look, the comps for this land sold for this, and it's like it's over $10 a foot, and it's a perfect deal. I'm like, that's not how I look at stuff. That's not how you look at it. You know, like it's a very specialized field. Yeah. Selling land, and then on top of that, getting it through entitlements, that's a whole different ball game. Yeah, because to your point, you know, as a partner builder and developer, is like the city, like you have to go through so many different phases with the city, and they can say like, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to do this kind of study. I want you to, you know, give me a school site. You know, I'll reimburse your utilities if you do a fire station. You know, it's so much different, and that can affect your lot count. Yeah. You know, so you have to. That lot count is
that's like, in my opinion, for any builder, that's the big thing they care about. Yeah. Is their lot count. I mean, they want the size. I mean, obviously they want the product that they want, but they want, after that's been determined, like that lot nut unit count is what they really care about.
That's it, because that affects the lot cost.
Yeah, that's the expense what they can make.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me ask you this. In Austin, do y'all have like special financing districts like MUDs, municipal utility districts, PIDs?
Yeah, we got all that.
Y'all do?
Yeah, we got all that.
Nice.
Okay. It all depends on where, and it's like all that's like, especially with the city, is all negotiated.
Gotcha. Because I know Houston, we have it. Y'all have it. But Dallas, I heard Dallas, they don't use those. Yeah.
Oh, they don't?
They just straight up just develop it, and the cost is the cost, and that's probably why the houses are more expensive. But I could be wrong. Hey, in the comments, if my dad like, don't come after me, but that's what I've heard. Okay. You know, but I mean,
that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
But I think that also helps affordability too, with those reimbursements and stuff with the PIDs, MUDs, and all this.
Yeah, that's what they have to do, because the builder has to pay. If the builder has to pay all those utility costs, it makes it really tough. Because builders or developers, they take a big gamble. Like they put a lot of money into something, so they gotta like. That's why there's so much research done, because if they're wrong, they're screwed.
Yep, and you can get sued. Yeah, all kind of stuff could happen. So, but yeah.
One of the next things I wanted to ask you about is, so one of the things you mentioned is that you're kind of like full service. You do land development and you build. So what kind of like, I guess, do you think that gives you any advantages in terms of like working with you guys rather than just being a builder?
Yeah, 100%. Because if you look at some of the large builders like your D.R. Horton, Lennar, KB Homes, Meritage, in my homes, the reason they're so big is because they develop their own lots. They can control the lot cost, the land cost, and the home building side, there's a lot more profit margin because you control the lot and land development costs, right? If I'm just a builder, I'm just going to pay whatever market is. And if I've got, 10, 15 builders looking for the same products, the lot cost is a lot higher. Versus if I go through the work of buying my own raw land, developing it, and I could even sell it off to another builder. And because if I do that, then now my land base is a lot less. You know what I mean? And then you pair that with reimbursements, and now you have even better margin. So it's always better to be a developer and a builder if you can.
Yeah, if you can do it. But the difference is it's a very different skill set.
It is, yeah.
It's a very different skill set. Because I think as a builder, it's more about like operations and efficiency. And then as a land developer, you have to be good with, one, finding acquisition of land, finding raw land in general, and then working with the cities to get it entitled to be able to do what you want.
Right, yep.
So that's a very time-consuming process.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about the land side and the development side is the time and the massive amount of money you have to front, up front. Like it takes a long time, 2 years sometimes, maybe 3. But home building, I mean, 3 months, 4 months, you build a house, you in and out. Yeah. And it's just a quicker hit. But
that's it. Yeah. That's a nice thing is that you're just there's less variables. It's just like, okay, all your money is made off the build.
Right.
Yep. And so it's just about finding in finished lots. It's easier to find that, I think, in comparison to like doing the development of raw land.
Right, and then not many smaller builders do that, and that's why they don't scale like the big boys do, because they don't do their own development.
Yeah, because when you do your own development, you might get hundreds of homes.
Yeah.
So then that's a lot of work. That's good. That's a good amount of business for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example for us, we have about 200 lots in the pipeline from now until 2026, right? They call it about $10 million, right? For 200 lots. But that's like 5 or 6 different communities. And I got to wait for those. But if I had a 20-acre piece and I'm sitting on it for a year or 18 months, that's 200 some lots. That's just in one community. And that's the same price tag. Like it might cost about 10, 15, 20 million bucks, we'll call it, but it's still 200 lots.
Yeah.
And I control it, and I can sell half of it if I want to, versus paying a premium, buying it from a third-party developer, because everybody else is looking for those lots.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's tricky.
So it helps having the development side, too.
So let's talk about one thing I know you wanted to talk about was your Dayton project.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's a community, right? So you typically do mainly lots, but that's a little bit different than what you typically do.
Yes.
At least as of now.
Right. And I kind of want to backtrack it a little bit, just to kind of tell you our history.
Okay.
So we started in 21. My 2 partners, they came from Lennar. All 3 of us came from Lennar.
Okay.
But one of my partners, Luke, he was on the construction side for Lennar, LGI, Dior Horton. I mean, he's built 700 something houses in 7 years. And he was one of the top builders in Lennar before he left. And then my partner Saad, he sold houses in Dubai. He raised capital for multifamily groups and stuff. And then at Lennar, he did the sales, warranty, like the whole operational side. And then I came in on the land side. And so it's like, we got a sales guy, we got the construction guy, we got the land guy. That's a perfect, trio to grow the company. But so they started in 21. They did 4 custom houses. And that's really important too, because we went from spec building, production, like 100 houses a year type stuff.
Yeah, that's what your bread and butter with Meritage.
Right. Well, with Lennar.
Lennar. Sorry, I got him. I get all the builders confused.
So we went from doing production at scale to doing custom houses. And if you ever did custom houses, you know how challenging that could be with customers.
Yeah, customers always want things a certain way.
Yeah, so it's very different. All right, so we did 4 custom houses the first year. I came in 22, in March of 22, and then we partnered with.
Was it just after COVID ended?
Yeah, just shortly after. So they started in 21. They did 4 custom houses. In 22, I came on, and then we did 50 houses. And then this year we're gonna do about 90. But I want to. Those 50 houses that we did, those were on scattered lots in 3 different communities. Like
all in different places.
All in different places. But we essentially treated it like it was a community, because it's like we might have 20 houses within a half-mile radius or 1 mile radius, but they still might be scattered, right? So we did that last year, and then this year we got into our first community. And that community is the Dayton West Point community. And so the reason I say that is because we went from doing something at mass scale And then we basically went down to the bottom, did the customs, did something that we weren't really, that's not our bread and butter. Then we went to scatter lots, which that wasn't my forte either. I'm used to buying like 500 lots, 200 lots in one community. Way easier.
Yeah.
Way easier.
Yeah, because it's all one place.
It's one phone call. And it's like, yeah, you Lennar? Okay, easy. And I went from that to basically functioning like a wholesaler. Yeah. Cold calling individual owners, getting cussed out, all this other stuff. You know,
like, why you calling me?
Why you calling me? I'm like, man, you've been sitting on this property for 20 years. You might get foreclosed on. You know, like I'm trying to help you out. Like I'm trying to help you make 30 bands, 40 bands. Like, you know, I'm calling you for Christmas. I'm Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on, like they're like, no, man, you know, hang up. So we did that, but then now we in our communities and we kind of back to what we know. Okay, you know, so it was a grind getting there, but now that we here, it's just like it feels really good to get back to what we know. Because from the past 2 years, we kind of sunk to the bottom, you know, scraped the barrel. And then now we back to where we, you know.
Yeah, you wanted to get started. You had to just get started just to get a few lots in your belt because it's just hard to acquire like lots of lots really quickly.
Yeah,
or by do the development of raw land. That just takes time. So you want to you want to start having people do stuff. So lots is the easy way to get started.
Yeah, I mean, we had to start somewhere, and I mean, now that we're in our first community, I guess we'll kind of talk about that. So that community is a 500 home community. And so we have a total of 47 lots in that community now with some opportunities to add more to it.
Yeah. And is this your first big community?
It's our first one.
Okay, so the first big one. So that was why it's so special because before you're doing all these scattered lots, so that's how you got started, and then you're doing more and more, and then this one you decided you're putting all your skills together from the raw land development to then building vertical.
Right, and so let me point this out too. This community is actually, we bought finished lots from a third party developer here. So like, it's 3 other builders in it too. Century Communities is a publicly traded builder.
Okay, so you still have to share a little bit.
Yeah, we still have to share. But it's like, you know, the beauty of it is we got into a community and now it's like, I don't have to call all these landowners. It's just like, okay.
Just one guy.
And he's like, hey, okay, y'all doing good here? Here goes another set of lots. Here's another community. And it's just like, it's a night and day difference.
And so with that community, so you said there's 2 other builders. So you kind of have to like, I guess, fight over the 3 of you guys. So the designer, I guess, or the developer, he wants to kind of like, so my thought is he probably has 3 builders because he wants to kind of have the houses vary a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
That's kind of the idea, I would think.
And typically, like, it depends on how many lots it's going to be. Like, if it's 100, 200 homes, that's probably the 1 builder or 2 builders. If it's like 500, that might be 4 builders. Because at the end of the day, as a developer, I'm looking at velocity. Like, especially if I have reimbursements, I want to see, okay, I partially get paid back once I sell lots. The second phase is I get paid back from reimbursements once y'all start selling the houses. So that's why most developers, they sell lots to big builders because it's like, for instance, in West Point, Century, they'll build 20, 30 houses at once. And as a developer, I'm like, okay, they selling 5 or 6 houses a month. That means I'm gonna start getting my reimbursements really quick. Versus a small builder, it's like they got a bank. The bank's only letting them do 4 specs at a time until they get contracts, and it's like it's a slow moving train, right? So that's partially why big developers only mess with the publics, the top 25 builders, because they got the operations to sell houses quick, to buy land quick, you know, and they just have that capital. Okay. Most smaller builders don't have that. So
most people don't have I would think in my head, most builders don't have like necessarily all that capital, but they have the ability to get the loans.
Right. Yeah.
That's the key thing. Cause most people don't have like 30 million just sitting in the bank.
No.
I don't even think most builders don't even have that either. They just have the ability to like say that they can pay it back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then even with that, there's limitation. Like I said, you know, you might be limited to 5, 6 specs at a time. Yeah, I mean, when you working with a big builder, you might be building 10 houses a month. And because you can do that, you can get better cost efficiencies. You know what I mean? Like I said, that $100 a foot.
Yeah.
Earlier, if you're only building 5 houses at a time, you might end up building each house for $100 a foot. But if you're building like 10 a month, $100 a year, $200 a year, you can get it down to like below $80 a foot. Just because you have that volume.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the difference between a public builder and a private, smaller builder is those operational efficiencies. Like, it's just...
Yeah, when you have that kind of philosophy, you can always find a way to use the material.
Right.
That's the key thing. You can find a way to use it. It's just not going to be sitting there.
Yeah. And then on top of that, too, like, you can have predictable sales, too. Like, if you have that structure like a big builder, like, no offense to my realtors or anything like that, but like it's most big builders, they go through specialized training to teach you how to sell houses. And so if a model home is set up, I mean, it's kind of predictable how many houses you're going to sell a month. You're not running out to this community, this community, this community. This is like you here and your job is to sell these houses in this community and close out. So it's pretty predictable. What the sales paces are per month and all that kind of stuff.
So for you guys, what is kind of like your end goal in terms of like, what are you hoping to be? Are you trying to hope to be eventually like like Lenore or Meritage? Is that kind of like the goal at some point? Or what is kind of like, is there like a niche that you're trying to go towards?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that. I'm putting this out to the universe.
Okay.
I tell everybody this. We were ranked number 46 builder in the city of Houston this year. My goal and my team's goal is to be to break top 25 by 2027.
Okay.
And to do that, we have to do about 400 to 500 closings a year.
Okay.
And so eventually, like next year, we hope to get into about 3 or 4 communities. And the year after that, in 26, we can get up to maybe about 10.
Okay.
And then to get to that 400 a year, that's about 10 to 12 different communities, including our own development project. So the eventual goal is to do about 400 closings a year and then always have a backlog of developed lots of at least 500 to 1,000. And it's just continually feeding the machine.
Okay. So you want to become one of those big boys eventually.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's the way, that's how it is.
Like right now we doing about 80 to 90 houses a year.
Okay.
And I mean,
which is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. But to me, like, at Lennar, we were doing like 4,000 lots a year in Houston.
Just in Houston.
Just in Houston. And that's 4,000 lots. That's not closings. Like when you look at closing, you're looking at like, I think it was like 10,000.
Damn.
So I'm like, 100 is cool.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not
but
bad.
It's not what I'm used to.
Yeah,
me and my partners, like, I think Luke, he might have built like 100 houses in a year by himself.
Yeah.
So it's like if we got a whole team and a company, I mean, 100 is not that much. We kind of behind the 8 ball at that point.
Okay.
So,
but you're still young in your in your companies. Like you guys are only like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah, we still young. It's just when you see the high volume, you like for instance,
when you've been up to a certain point, you're like, I got to get back there.
Yeah, it's like if you hooping with LeBron and Kobe, you go back to the Y, you like, man, bring I want to hoop with y'all. I want to hoop with the big dogs. It's just a different level. And I think, you seem like a high performer and stuff too. Like, when you hang around high performers and people that are the best of the best, then all is it's going to elevate you at that level. You know what I mean? So it's just,
no, you want to be the best.
Yeah, I mean,
you want to be not only volume but also quality. You want to do them both.
Yeah, it's like Lennar at the time, it's the second largest builder in the nation, and it's like we came from that, and we building our company similar to their structures and all the other process that we learned from other builders. My banking experience, we want to build one of the best. It's like if we left some good jobs, why not?
Yeah, aim for the stars. Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we'll see where it goes from it.
Yeah, but you're off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's fun being able to just do it and see, get on podcasts and stuff like this with you, tell people about hard homes and educate people and just be a resource. Like that's the most fun that I get out of.
You mentioned that you're kind of up there in terms of like you're one of the one of the initial people to get started. So you're kind of really like forming this company. So it's almost like it's like your own, like your own baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's bro, me, Stott, and Luke, man. It's been days and stuff. We be at the office till 9, 10 o'clock at night, like find out ways to make deals happen. It's just like, man, we've been in the thick of it. So
you can just like hear that passion from it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, like I say, it's not about the money for me. I mean, you know, the money will naturally.
It's important. It comes with the success,
right? But it's like, you know, the reason I'm doing it is because I enjoy seeing a piece of land and taking it from concept to giving the keys to the owners, right?
Yeah.
You see a raw piece of land, you see the vision. Like you said, you get the story about it. You know, it might have been a rice farm, all this other stuff. Then when you design a community, you put little silos, you put little, you know, saddles and all that. And you take that story and you incorporate it in the design of the community. And then once you build it out, now you see them homeowners enjoying it for the next 20, 30 years. That's a beautiful process.
Yeah.
And then you can educate people about, hey, this is how you do it. I don't sell courses, by the way. It's all free game. All right. Like my passion is educating people because to your point earlier, it's like I found out about this because a guy got his car towed and he ended up calling me, and that's how I found out about it. Yeah. I never would have known about it. And I almost left early for that event. So 1 in a million chance. If I had left earlier, we wouldn't be at this table and I wouldn't even know about it. You know what I mean? So,
I see what you're saying, but I actually feel like you would have, because I think
it would have still happened.
I think it would still happen. It would have been something different.
Just a different path.
It would have been a different path. Right. You would have found. I have a feeling you would have found your way here.
Right. It probably just been a little.
I think
late.
The universe would have sent another sign.
Yeah.
It would keep throwing signs until you got the hint.
Yeah. No, I mean, when
it's your passion, a lot of times, and if it's your passion and you're looking, like. Life, the universe, I've learned the universe will, like, when you know what you want, the universe will find a way to throw it at you.
Right.
You just gotta be looking. That's the first step.
Yep. That's true. I'm gonna bring this up too, because this just hit me today. So I'm at a conference at the Lost Pines.
Okay. That's a nice place.
It's nice. And I'm gonna tell you, so like I think about a year ago, I drove into Austin and I drove past it and I was like, man, I looked this place up. It's nice. I want to go there one day. That's about a year ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm there.
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't even think to plan it. Like when I pulled up to it yesterday, I was like, oh shoot, this is the place that I said I wanted to go by one day. So you know that sometimes when you manifest and you believe, it's really just believing that you can do it. And sometimes the universe, like you said, it'll bring it all together at some point. But it all starts with believing that it's possible and believing that it's possible that you can do it. You know? Yeah. So
there's a book that I think you'd really like. It's called like The Law of Attraction. Okay. And it's kind of like a book about like it's more of like a quotes book, but it talks a lot about you have to work hard in life, but it's also about like you have to kind of have to see it before it happens.
Yes. Yep.
And you have to envision it. It's like it has to almost feel as real in your head before it becomes real in reality.
Yeah, because I mean, I think if you can, some motivation speaker said, if you can see it in your mind, you can feel it in your heart, it's already yours. It just take a little time to get there.
Yeah, just take a little time.
Because I don't know if it's something like psychologically. I know like with memory, if you see a picture and you feel it, for some reason that triggers a longer term memory. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you can actually feel it and see it. So that's kind of how that, I guess, vibration I think works psychologically.
Well, I like the way I think about it is it helps with like the grind.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like when you can see it and you can envision it, like sometimes you lose, like motivation only lasts for so long. And so sometimes you need those like, you kind of need to have like an end goal in sight. Otherwise you'll lose out on the process a little bit. Yep. And so sometimes that helps, especially with the grind and the hustle to like get to where you want to go. And it's always harder than you think it's going to be. It's always longer than most time you think it's going to take. Yep. But that's why that you need to have that goal or that vision, so that way, like when you're kind of like feeling like if this is worth it or not, you'll just kind of have that goal or vision in your head.
Yeah, it's you got to have a big why.
A big why. Yeah,
there's a developer that is kind of like a mentor to me. Kind of like I basically like
you hear some of his stuff, or you talk to him, or
like we've had lunch a couple times, and I kind of aspire to be like him and all that. But we had lunch one time, and I was like, man, how'd you scale your company and sold it to a big builder, and now you doing development, and you have no background doing it, and like how did you deal with the tough times? Because like as a startup, you got all kind of issues that come up from HR, personnel, growing operations, capital. I was like, man, how did you keep going? And he was like, I'm gonna say the PG version, but he basically said when you have one of those really rough days when you just want to like just quit everything, you gotta assess how bad you really wanted it and what you really wanted it. Because if you give up with everything, at that moment, then that means you didn't want it that bad. Yeah, like you didn't really want it that bad, and you let your head hitting, your head hitting against the wall. Hold on, I kind of lost it. But you letting basically all the obstacles, all your fears, and all the challenges overcome your wanting to achieve that goal. Yeah, and basically, essentially, the obstacles are bigger than your why for doing it. You know what I mean?
You kind of remind. There's this guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Eric Thomas.
Yep, Dr. Eric Thomas. Yep. Yeah. How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
What's your why?
Yeah.
If you don't live here doing anything, what's your why? Yep. I remember that's the first thing you said when you said that.
Have you ever seen the How Bad Do You Want It videos from him?
Yeah, I've seen all his stuff.
Bro.
Dude, I like listen to his stuff like morning. I don't do it as much now, but I used to listen to stuff all the time.
Dang, dude.
There's a phase where like every morning I'd listen to one of his videos. Like every morning.
I used to do that too. So I played baseball in high school and college. And I remember every Saturday before I go run or every day before practice, I would put on that How Bad Do You Want It video. Yeah. For like every day, bro. Like when stuff was hard, like I put it on. Like even to this day, like I still listen to it. And I've been listening to him almost for like 10 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy what he's begun from his first videos to now.
Bro. But that's just a testament too of like, you just got to get started.
Yeah, get started and you got to stay consistent.
Figure out stuff along the way and you eventually get better. Just like you doing your podcast. You talked about brokerage and being in the land side and how you just figure out stuff along the way. Yeah. But it's like, look, you're going to figure out stuff. You might as well do it now and figure it out because it's going to put you light years ahead versus somebody that it's like, oh, I don't want to. They too, analysis paralysis.
Well, they get scared.
Yeah, they get scared.
There's reasons why you because you want to have a living and there's other, especially when you have a family, it gets hard. Yeah. But it's like one of those things that it's a big investment because a lot of times when you start out, you're not making jack shit. Yep. But if you want to grow, it's kind of like, it's one of those things where like when you start your own company, like you're working a lot more, making a lot less. But your trajectory is exponential. And so that's the way I see it. And that's like, if you want to be a business owner, like, yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah, it's a process, but you got to take it one step at a time. You can't try to jump. And, I think, our generation, we just kind of want stuff fast sometimes. Yeah. And it's like, you can get there fast.
Yeah, microwave fast.
Yeah, you can get there fast with, ChatGPT and AI and stuff. You can, I think you can get there a little bit faster with social media and the technology. But you got to realize, like, it's not a straight path, like you said. Like, it's kind of, zigzag and...
you got to find... Even with social, you have the opportunities, but the thing is like, most people who, like, you have to learn social media. You have to learn that game. There's so many games you got to learn. And there's, like, you're not the only one competing. Yeah. It's like all these social media and all these... Everyone's trying to win. Yeah. And so, like... It sometimes it takes some time to like figure out how to win. It takes time.
Yeah, it does. I think like what you're doing right now, this is perfect because it's like, everybody's doing a lot on social media and it's a lot of noise. But if you can position yourself as an expert in your field on social media and you consistent with it every day, you consistent, you can really gain a following
Yeah.
And you don't have to have 10,000, 15, 20,000 followers. You can have 5 and all of them are your clients or potential people that they trust your voice. They trust what you do because you position yourself as an expert and you consistent.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like I think growing an audience and having and being a content producer, I think is really important to grow.
Yeah.
Like not only for your personal brand, but for even companies. I think it used to be like you had to have a website otherwise you were just like didn't exist. Mm-hmm. And now like the new thing is like in this age is you got to have social media. You got to have like you have something. Your company's got to have something on Instagram. Your something's got to have Facebook. Something on TikTok. If you're otherwise, people are like you don't exist.
Yeah,
that's kind of the new thing now. Websites. It used to be websites. Now it's like, do you have social media? Right. What does your social media look like?
Yeah, no, 100%. And honestly, like so, we talked about like the top. Most developers only mess with the top 25 builders. Well, we were able to grow and get into our first community because our social media presence just seemed so exciting, energetic. And some of our, actually one of the developers, he was like, I see y'all on LinkedIn all the time. I appreciate y'all grind and stuff. Here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Alongside publicly traded builders that could like, they could crush you.
Well, the thing is, it's something they just don't want to give you an opportunity. It's more, or at least is my opinion. They see a proof of concept.
Yeah.
They're like, they're like, you got this many followers. You got like people are engaging with you. They know that like if you make a house, somebody's gonna go buy it.
Right, and
that's the thing they care about.
Yeah, and honestly, like
people don't just give handouts because they like to be nice.
Yeah, no, it's like you gotta have a proven concept. Yeah. It's like if I'm investing $50 million in this project, you better make sure you can sell them houses.
Yeah.
You know, so like
because they're in it to make money.
Yeah, it's not charity work, you know. But because our social media presence on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and all that, like. I think half of our buyers came from social media.
Yeah.
And we essentially are able to compete with the public builders because of our social media presence as a builder in their third year business. You know what I mean? Like it's social media is that important, even on a corporate scale.
Yeah.
Like it's just different. You know?
I think because when I first started as a realtor, social media wasn't that big. And when when I started off, I specialized in finding like homes for from home builders, like when they're building a community, and I would know where all those communities are. So unless you're like someone really knowledgeable, like a person who's looking for a house, you're not going to know about all of these communities unless you'd like literally drive by it.
Yep.
And so nowadays it's changed a lot to where like you can, it's more easier to find communities because of social media.
Yep, it is. Yep. So.
I want to make sure before, because we're getting close to the end, I don't want to keep you up too late, but I got a couple more things about your project.
Okay.
So right now, you have that Dayton project. That's kind of like the new big project. I just want to, like the listeners, like for people, like what makes your homes like stand out in that community? Or like why would people want to go to Dayton? Because it's just kind of out there a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little further.
It's a little out there. It's like 30, 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, it is.
Like what makes that that area unique more particularly?
Yeah, so for those that aren't really keen to the Houston market, the whole east side of Houston has kind of been underdeveloped. But recently they opened up a major highway called Grand Parkway, or Highway 99, and it essentially connects 45, which takes you to the Woodlands, all the way to I-10. And that takes about 40 something minutes. So people can go, you know, to Baytown where the refineries are, all the jobs are, or you can go up to the Woodlands, you know. So it basically opened up that whole east side of Houston. And so Dayton, like we said earlier, is on the path of growth. You know, that's the first community out there is a 500 home community, but I know of several other big production builders that have thousands of acres in the entitlements process right now, right in that little corridor. So we were essentially like able to get into a really hot market before it got too hot. Because the next 2 or 3 years, I think they're going to have close to 10,000 houses coming in just in that little pocket.
Okay.
So, but it was on the path to growth.
Okay.
So that's, you know, the product, So the products that we have out there.
Talk about that a little bit.
So we're on 35-foot wide lots and 50-foot wide lots. Most of the other builders are on 50-foot wide lots, and their price point is $250 to $300. Our products start at 1,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet or 1,250 square feet, and they go from $195 to about $220 on the smaller products. And I mean, it's 2-car garage, 3-bedroom, 2 baths. Some of them are 4-bed. And then we have a little bit on our 50-foot lots. We have products going from 1,400 square feet to 1,800 square feet. 3-bedroom, 2 baths, some 4-bedroom. So with that product, we're at $230 to about $275. So we're in line with everybody else on the 50-foot wide lots, but on the 35-foot wide lots, we're on the more affordable side. But we don't sacrifice quality. Even on our $190,000 to $230,000 product, we got granite countertops, 9-foot ceilings, nice open entryway, nice vanities, like I think 42-inch cabinets, like top of the line.
So you're able to get good quality. So the way is because you have a little bit smaller lots, you can keep the good quality,
right?
And then also keep the price down as well. So that way you could be affordable while still keeping good quality.
Right. Yep. And still being able to be competitive with the other builders in the community too. But yep.
I'm curious with like this community. Did you come up with any, or did any like land development issues come up with this community or anything like that? Or any issues come up in general when you were first like getting into this community?
Yeah, it did. So these were finished lots. So most of all the entitlements and development infrastructure stuff was taken care of, which that was great.
That was awesome.
But and this was on my end. I messed up on this end. I didn't realize that the city of Dayton had a pretty taxable impact fee. So their impact fee is like $11,000 per lot. So, which most cities, it might be like 2,000, 5,000. But I mean, 11,000, you add that to
it adds up.
Lot cost. Like
it hurts your margins big time.
Yeah, big time. So that was my mistake on that, trying to but that was essentially.
So the city had made maybe some new change or something. And they, something along those lines. They'd made a new rule change and saying, I had a similar experience too with like an RV park where they'd now change their like fees to like, instead of per lot, like a few hundred, then it became like several, like almost 1,000 per lot. And so like the cost, the application fee alone was like significantly like 4 or 5 times higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough and I love y'all Dayton. If y'all watching, I love the city of Dayton. I love y'all. We appreciate it. But I mean, like right now, we trying to start 17 houses. Right, you do 17 times 11. That's $180 some thousand dollars, $185,000, $89,000. That's just to start a house. Like that's a huge burden. I mean, for a small builder like me, I can't front $200,000 just in permit fees to start a house. Right, that's a whole house.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So it's like, but the public guys, it's like, I'll start 30 of them. It's not a problem.
Because they have the volume to deal with that. So I understand. So it kind of hurt a little bit early.
Yeah, and this is since we on the podcast, we talking publicly about it. One of my messages to the cities and local governments and municipalities is, you want to try to work with your builders. Try to find a way, like, you want to get your revenue, you're going to get your tax revenue.
You're definitely your tax revenue.
You're going to get your tax revenue, but make it easy on the builders that are trying to bring affordable housing to the community. Like, we don't get rich off of these houses. We're not custom builders or anything like that. We trying to do a service to the community, but it really takes a community to make it happen. And it starts with the jurisdictional, the city's working with builders to,
No, I understand that completely. That's one of the things when I do entitlement process, it's very important. I've learned that you need to go meet the people there, not just like email back and forth. Right. So they get to know you and they'll work with you, because it's a little bit of a negotiation a little bit. Like you got to give a little bit, they got to give a little bit. And so I've learned that sometimes you kind of help them kind of understand some of your problems so that they can they'll feel empathetic to kind of like work with you.
Right.
And I've learned that I think sometimes it depends. Every city or county is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so like not one city or county is different, and then who's running it is different. So that's what I've learned is very important to put a face to the name.
Yeah. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
it's all about relationships.
In the industry period, it's all about relationships, from landowners to developers to builders to city.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes our line of business different. It's not transactional, like
yeah,
selling one house.
Because you're going to see them again.
If you sell me some lots, I'm going to be back. Like, I want some more lots, So it's, it's more relationship based.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's true with real estate in general. So anyone who wants to get into real estate, like it's definitely a very relationship type of business.
Yep. And the cool thing about it is when you have relationships with people, it can be almost an annuity stream sometimes when you link up with the right clients, pretty much.
Yeah, because then they're going to be like, they know that you've done good business. They're going to want to do more good business with you.
Exactly.
Because it's hard. I've learned it's hard. So my mom talks about this a lot. So she was always trying to find multipliers. People who are going to help her not only have both of them grow and we grow. Because sometimes you can't always help someone in that way. Like there's people that are subtractors who are not doing negatives to you. There's people who are addition people who do a decent job and add value. And then there's multipliers that really expedite this connection, or this person really grows your business, because then they can throw more business at you guys, and you guys can grow together and double or triple your business.
Right. Yeah.
But those are hard people to find.
It is. It really is. It reminded me, since we was talking about motivational quotes, it reminded me of that quote with Zig Ziglar where he say, you can have everything you want if you help enough people get what they want.
You know what they want.
That's essentially what it is. You be a resource to other people, and then you find those multipliers. And when y'all make money together, y'all just gonna keep making money.
Yeah. And the thing is, it works out that way because when someone has helped you make money once, there's a good chance that they could probably help you do it again.
Oh yeah. And y'all friends at that point.
Yeah, at that point, because there's always with any, especially the first time you do any kind of deal with somebody. Well, first there may not be a second deal, but because of that, it's unknown. How are they going to act? You have to kind of take a leap of faith with any deal.
Yeah.
And so that's why after you've already done that once, you don't have to do more deals. You don't have to have that what is this going to be like? Because you've already done it.
Yeah, that trust is already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm curious, before I let you go, do you have any future projects that you're kind of that you can talk about that are kind of the next after this Dayton project that you can talk about, or anything kind of exciting coming up?
Yeah. So we actually have a community coming up right off the Grand Parkway in Dayton, and it's part of a 1,200 home community, and we have a small piece of it.
Okay.
But it's also with some big public builders too.
Okay.
And so we're really excited about that. That's going to launch in September of next year.
Okay.
So, and I mean, we're really excited about that. It's going to have $11 million worth of recreational trails, school site, really nice stuff. So we're really excited about that. And then we have other opportunities that we want to get. Like I said, we have about 200 lots that we can pick up now. But it's just a matter of partnering with the right investors or capital partners that want to joint venture with us, or so that we can capitalize on those opportunities. So that one community is the most exciting project for us.
That's the next one coming up. And it's still in Dayton. So you are a big believer in what Dayton's going to be.
100%. Because I mean, like I said, I know of several big builders that have at least 2,000 plus acres, under the development process right now.
Okay.
And the entitlements process. So that whole side of Dayton, it's growing.
We
want to be there.
You're making a big investment into that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the thing too. As a builder, as a production builder, you essentially set up satellite offices in each community that you do.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a construction manager, you have to have a salesperson there. You might have 2 or 3 salespeople there, and you have a lot of overhead to start that community. So, for us, if it's less than 30 lots, and we're not in that community already or in that area, we typically don't want to touch it because it takes a lot of capital and overhead.
Yeah, it takes a lot of your resources.
Right. So it's like, minimum, if we're doing a project, it has to be a minimum of at least 30 houses, right? Typically, it's have to be 50 or more, but because we're a little bit smaller, 30 is usually the sweet spot, but it's just like, once you're there, you want to kind of keep growing.
Yeah, you want to keep growing because you already have resources, so then you don't have to like divide as much if you've got more there. So that's why you're making a big investment. You already believe in the area, and now you're looking even harder because you already have resources that are already there.
Exactly. So like now that we're already there, I'm looking at lot positions for the next 2 or 3 years in that area, so I could just keep feeding my people lot positions and houses and stuff. So, but I mean, yeah. That's where we at.
Let me ask you a few fun questions before I let you go.
All right.
So in your development projects, if it was turned into a reality TV show, what was I gonna say? What do you think it would be called, and who would be the star?
I'd probably be the star. Yeah. Man, it'd probably be This is not corporate at all. Developing with G Money.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we've talked about a bunch of things, and so if people want to like reach out to you in some capacity, whether it's finding land or like invest in some of your projects, or even those people who just want to buy a house from you guys. How are they going to reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can check out hearthomestx.com.
Okay.
HARThomestx.com. Just check out our website. We have our phone number on there. You reach out to our main line, and then you can ask for Greg or the land guy. My team, they told me to start saying the Land King.
Okay,
even though I'm not deserving of that title just yet. But
just call his number and say Land King.
Yeah,
that's all you gotta say, and you'll find this guy. They will find a way to you.
Yeah, so just check.
You don't even need to know his name. No one needs to know Gregory's name. Just say Land King.
Just say the land. Just ask for the Land King or the land guy. But just check us out, hearthomestx.com. We're on Instagram, same handle, hearthomestx. I mean, we're not hard to find, like Deion Sanders said.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And me personally, you can just look up Gregory Monette Jr. on Instagram or LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on there. So if you're an investor or something, I highly encourage you to reach out through LinkedIn.
Okay. I'll make sure to put in the notes on both the YouTube channel and and then, on the YouTube video about like links to your website and then also your Instagram and LinkedIn. So if people want to find you, they have a way.
Perfect. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you stopped by and you were here in the Austin area. So I appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Nice.
Cool, man. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Made it happen.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Let's go.
Okay. That's good.